Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of Art of the Beholder, a show dedicated to all things eclectic in the world of art, where we do deep dives into deep cuts and help you understand why damn things matter. I'm your host, Nova Day, and today we're going to be talking about art in television, focusing on the first season of HBO's The Last of Us. To hash it out, we are joined by executive, exclusive, senior correspondent, that's right, my favorite cordyceps, Mr. Theodore T. Buck. Welcome back to the show, Buck.
It's good to be back. Hey, everyone, just a little peek
yeah.
behind the curtain.
Let's peek.
I may also feel like one of the infected today. So yeah, but no, I feel like the dead today a little bit. But no, we're going to have fun. I'm excited to talk about this. It's one of my favorite subjects. So
you know what's crazy is I didn't know you were a super fan. But when we were doing guys, we're very professional here at NDP.
Yeah.
We have pitch meetings, and when I was pitching to Buck, I said. I first was like, "You've seen the show?" And he's like, "Yeah." And you've played the game? And he goes, "Yeah." And then he goes, "Yeah, I've played through it about 4 times now." So
okay, so here's another thing. How big of a fan I am?
Super fan.
What's my dog's name?
Oh right, it's fucking Ellie.
Yep.
Named after the Ellie from The Last of Us. Oh my god.
Yep.
You are a super fan.
Yeah, no, I fell in love with this game pretty quickly when I played it, and the story has always stuck in my head. So it was really cool to see this come on screen.
And this our thesis today is simple too. Our job is easy because this is officially, you've heard it here first with AOTB, Art of the Beholder, that this is the best video game adaptation of all fucking time.
By a long
shot. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, leaps and bounds ahead of anything.
And that's why I think we're going to have so much fun talking about it today.
No, I'm sorry. I got to go back. I think it was it 1990 Super Mario Brothers?
Super Mario Brothers?
John
Leguizamo?
With John Leguizamo and there were like lizard people. You
bring up a good point. What a time to be alive, because they are finally doing something they should have done originally, which was the new Super Mario Brothers movie, which is an animated tale. They should have done that from the very beginning. Why?
Yeah. They
have to be kicking themselves right now.
Well, yeah, and that one's just a fun one. It's so bad.
So bad it's fun, like The Room. At this point.
Yeah, it's so weird too. It's like when I watch it, I'm like, did they think kids would like this at all?
Did they think a video game directed at children and families was gonna like this? I don't. In hindsight, I don't think so. It was guys. So for any of you Gen Zers listening, if you haven't seen it, do yourself an artistic favor.
Bob Hoskins as Mario. I mean, nothing says Mario like Bob Hoskins. Smee.
Luckily today, we're not talking about Super Mario. We're talking about The Last of Us. Now, before we can discuss, of course, we all need a little background. So HBO's The Last of Us is, of course, based on the video game of the same name. So let's talk about the game. So the source material. So it was released on June 14th, 2013. So almost 10 years ago. It was developed by Naughty Dog and published by Sony. It was written and directed by Neil Druckmann, with co-direction duties by Bruce Straley. Now the show, so let's fast forward to modern times. The show, it was released on January 15th, 2023. It was created and written by Craig Mazin and, of course, Neil Druckmann. Now, before we go any further, normally I say tough titties to all you guys listening, but actually, the season just got completed not too long ago, that I do want to say spoilers for the rest of the episode.
I
think we have to be a little more respectful. Yeah.
Pause it. If you haven't seen the whole thing.
Yeah. Watch it, come back, and you can do it right now, because good news, we have to have a little break for our sponsor. We'll be right back. This episode is brought to you by Novella Adulteration. Follow adult entertainer Jessica Amber Starr as she embarks on a journey that will change her life forever. She not only finds herself in the industry, but figures out a way to transform herself and eventually become reborn. Find out how in Adulteration, which can be found on Amazon in both paperback and ebook. Now back to the show. Okay, we are back, and this is what I want to do first. I want to ask Mr. Buck about first impressions. Your first impression. So, not the whole show. When you were first, you're maybe an episode in, maybe 2 episodes in. How did you feel?
I felt actually after about halfway through the first episode, I felt pretty good.
Good, like, oh my God, they're doing it. That feeling of like, oh shit.
Yeah, because this is
a game changer. This is different than other adaptations. Of video game source material.
There's this GIF online of Pedro Pascal. He was doing I think it was the Glass Menagerie or something like that. He was doing a reading from it where he starts laughing and then crying.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a famous one. Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, that's how you felt.
That's kind of how I felt throughout every time I would start an episode, I would be so excited, and I know what's going to happen too.
Yeah.
And then I'm just devastated after it. When I watched the opening, how they did it, how they handled it, it was different. It was a little bit. There was more background because in the game starts basically that night. You play. You actually the first
day one. We'll say
day one. Yeah. And this one it starts in the morning, and you kind of see throughout the day. Also, in the game, I think it started in 2013 and not 2003. The cool thing about starting it in 2003 was going back to a time when we didn't have cell phones and things or smartphones. Well, we had cell phones, but we didn't have smartphones. So one of the things I enjoyed about it was watching Joel's daughter kind of go throughout the day and not really know what's going on, but you can kind of tell something bad's happening.
Yeah, something's off. And it was subtle, but us also as the audience was feeling what she was feeling. We were seeing the same thing, the writing on the wall.
And they gave a background to, with the 1960s kind of television show talking about a potential cordyceps infection if it ever evolved. So that was really interesting. I really liked it. But what really got me hooked was that devastating scene when all hell breaks loose and they're trying to get out of town, and the way they handled it. And it's right before that, when she gives him his watch, because there wasn't a lot of dialogue that was similar, but when she said, he goes, "How'd you get the money for this?" And she goes, "I sell drugs, hardcore drugs." I was like, damn it. That's exactly the same line from the game. Okay, they're doing it and they're covering it, but how they handled that whole scene and coming up to her death, I go, okay, they've done it. They're doing it. It's happening. This is going the direction, I think, because it was almost, and if you go online and you look, there's a lot of side by side between the game and the TV show comparisons.
Oh, there's a ton. Oh yeah.
And you can tell, some of it, they just went verbatim. They just line by line, shot by shot remake. And I think that's when I started getting hooked, when I started noticing that. So yeah, I was immediately locked in.
I think your point on, I know what's going to happen. They recreated the game almost masterfully. And I think that is where the strength lies in this adaptation, is they did not veer too far from the source material. No. So we were joking about Super Mario Brothers in the intro. Yeah. That is a perfect example of going way far from the source material. It was almost a completely different world in a way. The only similarity is that it had Super Mario Brothers in the title, where this one, yes, if you've played the game, fair warning, it won't detract from the experience, though. You're still going to have a great experience in this medium, but it is the exact same story, and for a lot of the plotting and the beats and the main beats and things like that, it is almost exactly the same. And I think that's where they shine, is changing the medium and still recreating what was already great. Why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of mentality. Now, here is where now we can start talking about the similarities, more of the similarities and the differences, because it was still an adaptation, because we got more fleshed out plotting for things that they just couldn't do in the game, because you're controlling Joel and eventually Ellie throughout the entirety of the game. So there's no way we can talk about Bill and Frank, or learn more about Tess, or learn more about Joel, Tess, and then eventually Bill and Frank's relationship, but we can in this medium. And that's where I think that's where I got hooked. It was definitely episode 3. That's why I did an entire bonus show about it. But I realized that, oh my God, especially with the flashbacks, when we see the older Asian woman that was one of the scientists.
In Jakarta in Indonesia.
Yeah, when she was just like, bomb everything. Like, I feel like we all got chills as an audience.
Oh yeah, and that was another big change from the game.
Right, we don't get flashbacks in the game.
We don't get
it's
that.
Pretty linear in the game.
And in the game, it was kind of alluded to, I think, and I've been a while since I played it, but it started I think in the game it started in South America, not Jakarta. Now, listening to Neil Druckmann talk in some of the post episodes, like at the end where they kind of the post credit episodes, they talk about creating and producing the show. He said if they deviated from the game, the only reason that they would deviate from the game if it made things
to make it better.
It's a breath of fresh air to like hear that, because for me, like you just alluded to with the Super Mario thing, the other one I bring up is Hitman.
Oh God. Well, a lot of them. I mean, we could go through a laundry list. Tomb Raider. I mean, there's a lot of stuff where they deviated way too far. And I kind of get it. I can see the pitch meeting. I could feel like I'm in the room where they're like, well, we want to bring a new audience. We want to give them something new.
We want to make it more like approachable by a wide, broader audience than
with this one. This one was, this was the first game where I think we've talked about this in our other shows where something like Metal Gear was already cinematic and it was like feeling like you're playing a movie. But I feel like it wasn't until The Last of Us where they mastered the art of you truly felt like you were playing a movie.
Yeah.
Down to the animations, down to all the story beats, everything like that. I think that's what makes it stand apart, and it's why it's stood the test of time, and why they're doing this probably today, and not deviating from the source material.
I think another game similar was Uncharted that had a really good story like that. Now, another terrible adaptation recently was from that, but that game, playing the game, felt like basically an Indiana Jones kind of movie a little bit.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
In one of the things I think that Naughty Dog and some other studios are starting to do a lot better now was if you play a video game, a lot of the times, like when you're seeing cutscenes or stories, the dialogue, it's a very sanitized, or it's at the point where it doesn't feel realistic, where like people will kind of wait for somebody else to finish their lines.
Oh my God,
and then
yes.
speak.
There's so many examples of this. Oh yeah.
Yes. Where this is like, obviously it feels more natural.
This felt the most real ever.
Yeah.
Now I guess that was my point.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think we're at a point where it's being more seen as an art, and you're getting a lot more effort into people, putting in those performances and really treating it kind of almost like a movie.
Absolutely. No, and it is. And I get it from a business perspective. The reason why they did this was, we have a huge following, we have a demographic, but we don't have the parents of our demographic. We don't, we want to make it into a bigger franchise. We want to sell shirts and toys and action figures and all these things, and we want to make it Star Wars. That's like the gold standard of how we
merchandising.
Yeah. We want to make it, but also still have that integrity. As Star Wars fans, the source materials is still amazing, but they use that as a stepping stone to make it into a big franchise, and that's clearly what they wanted to do with the show. Because I bring up my mom a lot in these shows. My mom, I love you, you're amazing, and I did not prime her to do this. Just out of the blue, she was like, "Hey, I'm checking out The Last of Us on HBO. Have you ever heard of that?" And I kind of giggled. I was like, "Probably didn't know this, Mom. That is based off a very famous video game of the same name." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, well, it's really good." And I'm like, exactly. Yeah. Keep watching, Mom. Keep watching. Yeah. And for all you other moms out there, keep watching. Now, we got to talk about, this is another masterclass, again, with the original source material in the very famous writing line, simple plot, complex characters.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's talk characters. Joel, who's played by Pedro Pascal. And of course, we gotta mention the OG. Troy Baker was the original Joel in the game, and Ellie, played by Bella Ramsey, and the original OG was Ashley Johnson. Before I talk about the OGs, I want to talk about the newcomers. I was excited about Pedro Pascal playing Joel, but I was a little worried about Bella Ramsey. But I think what happened, and correct me if you felt the same way, I think I had a little bit of the Dark Knight and the Joker syndrome, where I was like, this guy's playing the Joker? Yeah. I felt that way with Ellie. I was like, this chick's playing the Ellie? I don't know if I'm going to see it. And I feel like they killed it. I think they did a great job. I think this is also the beauty of acting and theater and these kind of stories is though the character is already alluded to is exactly the same, the story is exactly the same as the game, they still brought a little different essence to the character.
They did. I think I was right. I felt the same way when I heard the casting. I think everybody was like Pedro Pascal would knock it out of the park, and I think I was a lot of people was a little hesitant about Bella Ramsey. Not that I didn't think she was a great actress. It's just
she can. They both come from Game of Thrones fame.
Both come from Game of Thrones. It was just I think it was a little different than maybe what some of us had in our head like forecasting, but they knocked it out.
That's why I used the Joel or the Joker example.
Yeah, you're totally right.
Heath Ledger. Like,
remember,
no.
Yeah, and
then he stole the movie. He stole the show.
Yeah, he won an Oscar for it. I mean,
yeah, I think we saw that together opening night. That was me and you.
We did. I went and
was Dark Knight first showing, like midnight or something like that.
I think I went and bought tickets like the night before, and I sat in line for 4 hours.
And it was an absolute like this is why movie theaters are still important kind of feeling like for movies like that.
Yeah, no, it's still one of the best cinematic experiences I ever. I mean, it was. I don't like outside of a major franchise. With the words star and wars in it. That was the most excited I'd ever been for
a War of Stars, perhaps.
War of Stars.
So you felt the same way, I guess, is the point. You felt like, oh, she I think a lot of people did the initial. Well, she doesn't look like Ellie. I think I think that was problem too. I was like, she doesn't really look like Ellie.
But she, and one of the things too, like if you're not familiar with the game, the performance by Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson is so beloved,
gold standard. Some of the best in video game voice acting history ever, I would argue.
Yes. Oh yeah, and like
more than Mass Effect, more than Metal Gear, more than I feel like anything. Those are a lot of staples, but these two together for these characters, it's iconic at this point, legendary.
Yeah, and when this game came out too, Troy Baker was also in. I felt like every video game for a while.
Yeah, he was already a little bit of the GOAT, but
yeah,
this kind of took him to the next level, and now he'll probably have a job. He has job security forever now, right?
Troy Baker. Yeah.
This is probably a good segue to talk about how they used them in the show because I think a lot of people wanted them to be just Joel and Ellie again, but they're a lot older. They wouldn't really fit. And not they're extremely old, but it just, especially Ashley Johnson, there's no way she could play a young girl that age.
No, she's our age. Yeah.
Right. But it was nice to see Troy Baker play James,
yes.
which was David's, right-hand man. And I think an excellent casting choice was having Ashley Johnson play Anna, Ellie's mother, in a very pivotal flashback scene that gets fleshed out about her character. And now I actually understand more why she is immune to the infection.
They give a reason. Yeah, and one thing too that we should also we didn't cover, one of the biggest differences in the game and the TV show is how cordyceps spreads.
Ah, yes. Spores versus tendrils.
In the game, it does spread from spores like most fungi do. That's real cordyceps. In real life with insect spreads is that the spores get on or attached to or inhaled by the insect themselves. So difference in this was that in the game, the characters have to put on gas masks basically to walk around. That was the showrunner that did this also did Chernobyl, Craig Mason, and one of the big difficulties they had to wear masks a lot in that show, obviously, because it's a nuclear fallout kind of thing. And so they didn't want to kind of have that same issue, like having people talk through masks and stuff like that. It was kind of a creative decision there.
Yeah, because you're not playing the characters. Now we're watching the characters. Now we're voyeurs again with this medium, TV, movies, film.
It's really going to be hard to film.
I actually think it was another choice, something that could just elevate the source material. I actually thought it was a little scary. Like when that one killed Tess and almost like kissed her and the tendrils were going into her mouth.
Oh, that was gross.
And I was like, I feel like that gave me nightmares for a day or two. That's probably a good segue to bring it back to the characters. And I want to go real quick since I know there's a lot we're going to want to talk about with some of the other things beyond plotting, characters and narrative, with like things like cinematography, etc. So I'm just going to fly through some of the other supporting characters that are very important to this world, which is, of course, Sarah, Joel's daughter, played by Nico Parker. And this is what kind of fuels who Joel becomes and who he wants to be later in the story, because poor Sarah is killed at essentially the prologue of the story. And then we have Tess, Joel's partner, played by Anna Torv, Tommy, played by Gabriel Luna, Marlene, played by Merle Dandridge, which, fun fact, it's the same person. So this is the
same
only
person from the games. Yep.
Is that what you were going to say?
Yep.
Yeah. This is the only person that was the exact same person from the games who actually played the same role in the show, was Merle Dandridge as Marlene. Some newcomers, I was really excited to see Melanie Linsky play Kathleen. I feel like Melanie Linsky is one of those underrated actors in Hollywood. We see her all the time in films and TVs. She's in a ton of stuff. Yeah. And she's so underrated. I think it's because she has a very sweet looking face. Like there's no way she could play a character like this, but then she plays a character like this and we're like,
she looks like
shit.
if you drove to Wisconsin to like a small town and you can just grab a random woman.
You know what's crazy is I thought she was American forever.
I did too.
Until I researched the show. She's not American at all.
I had no idea.
I had no idea, because she always plays these exactly to your point. She always plays characters like that, really sweet small town America girls.
Yeah.
And no, she's not even American. Yeah. So then we of course have, I think the standout episode, of course, for me is episode 3, and that is a standalone story about Bill and Frank, played by Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett, respectively. Mm-hmm. And another thing that deviated from the plot is Henry, played by Lamar Johnson, and Sam, played by Kayvon Montreal Woodard. So Sam in the games is not deaf, but in the show he's deaf, and he's a lot younger than Ellie in the show. And in the game they're about the same age.
Yeah, in the game.
And this is, I thought, again, I actually remember another one where I was watching the same kind of behind the scenes stuff, and Neil Druckmann was like, "Oh shit, why didn't I think of that? Fuck,
yeah,
that's a great idea," And it really elevated the character and made a lot of different dynamics within the scenes that they played out, and it was excellent. And of course, there is David, played by Scott Shepard. He's the preacher who's also the leader of a cannibalistic cult. And we already talked about James and Anna, played by Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson. And I think the supporting character casting was excellent. Nailed it, perfect, 10 out of 10.
They did a great job with it, and it goes to the fact that when you put your heart and soul into a lot of things, and I'm not saying that people that make things don't do that, but when everybody's on board and they're putting everything into it, you get a really good cast and you get really good performances out of everybody, and I think everybody knocked it out of the park. I was really excited that Nick Offerman was in this. I'm a huge Nick Offerman fan.
Oh, hell yeah. Ever since Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I loved Murray Bartlett and The White Lotus, the first season. So it was great to see
that pairing.
That episode, and I know it's been beaten.
It's already been talked about everywhere.
You've talked about it,
but listen to our show. Yeah, but listen to ours, because I don't want to, no spoilers even there. I think I wanted to talk about something that's not talked about enough.
Yeah.
And that is the emotional impact, because people will say it's sad. They'll talk about why it's sad. And it is a very sad episode. You're going to cry.
Yeah.
But they don't talk about why.
I think the only thing with that episode that I did not like was, I wish
get out of here.
In the game there was a lot of fun banter between Bill and Ellie, and that's kind of the one thing that I missed. However, what they did with that, and I think I texted you or I talked to you about this. I said I may have watched one of the best episodes of television I've ever seen in my life after that one.
In the last decade, for sure. It has to be one of the best. They fit so much in such a small time. And it is like I said in our bonus show, it is kind of like a movie. It is the longest episode, I think, of the entire season. It's 75 minutes, because they wanted to make sure they fit in everything to their vision, and they did. And it really was a home run. I think this is a good segue now to what you were hinting at, which was, when you have a good cast and they're well directed, you usually have amazing results. So let's talk direction. Let's pair that with cinematography. So this show looked great. I mean, that's an understatement. The direction, the scene blocking, it was clearly used with, again, something we've talked about on our show. It was clearly used with the stage craft, but when it was like real sets and stuff like that, you really felt transported. You really felt like this was a real world that people were living in, just like the game felt, to the point where I remember the famous giraffe scene, and me and my wife, TV Del Rio, was watching that, and I was like, I couldn't tell if it was real or CG, and my wife was convinced it was CG, and I kept saying to her, I was like, man, if that's a CG giraffe, then this is next level fucking CGI. Turns out it was a real giraffe. So for all you people wondering, it was a real giraffe.
I thought it was CGI as well.
Yeah. So that's why, I guess my point is, there was so many seamless elements of true CGI and non-CGI played throughout. Because if you actually see the real scene, they're on a stage set, and it's green screen everywhere except for Joel, Ellie, and the giraffe, because the giraffe was real. So everything around them was fake too.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I for sure thought it was like a CGI thing, because like, how do you get a giraffe?
I think the ones in the distance were the ones when they were like running
sense.
off and stuff like that, when they were moving on, kind of thing.
Fun fact: I grew up near a exotic farm, and I saw giraffes every day.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Interesting. So let's do a Novo pullback. So direction, cinematography, and then of course that is tied to wardrobe, set design, things like that. They're all kind of interconnected pieces, and it looked. When are the Emmys? Like, this needs to win an award for cinematography, set design. Like, it looked, from all the little things, and when you could tell when something is practical, there's like a real beat up, disheveled looking car or something like in the actual scene, versus sometimes when it wasn't. I mean, if you really looked hard enough. But with all the stuff on the ground and the debris and the gravel and the sludge and the darkness, I mean, it felt very real.
Yeah, and one thing I love about the game is there's kind of a theme where nature has kind of taken over, and that's it. It felt like that in the show. The vines, the vegetation growing everywhere. Where they show, she wakes up in the second episode, and it looks like she's like sleeping on a bed of grass, but then you look up and she's in the middle of a skyscraper, basically. Yeah. Vegetation, trees have grown in there, so I love stuff like that. And man, yeah, whoever ran the set design, like you said, I mean, yeah, they have to win an Emmy or something.
They got to win an Emmy for this. I mean, it looked so good.
It looked awesome.
Yeah. And this is another thing where they clearly wanted to not veer too far off from the source material, because it looked almost to a T how it looked in the game. But think about just the level of skill and craftsmanship to create that in the real world, though, making sure that all the debris and all the little rubble and the decaying buildings and the dilapidated surroundings felt like they truly evolved into that, and it wasn't just someone placing things here and there kind of thing.
Yeah, no, the clothes too, like there was a lot of screen.
Let's move on to wardrobe.
Yeah, but yeah, like even looking at, like, they would do screenshots side by side of Joel in the game and Joel in the TV show, and like it looked like he was wearing the same thing. It was crazy.
Oh, yeah. And then if you're on Instagram or whatever, then you get ads on how to buy that rough looking brown jacket,
trucker jacket from, is it Huckberry or something? Yeah, I'm not trying to advertise here, but guy, I've seen.
Yeah, we're not sponsored.
Oh, and they sold out. They definitely sold out.
You can buy that jacket if you want to.
I kind of like it.
Yeah, I do. It's a nice jacket. I do kind of like it as well. Yeah. So yeah, I think we're driving it home that everything to a T was, again, perfect. And that brings us to all the glue, or sometimes the invisible glue, special effects and music. As already hinted at, the special effects were seamless. Most people, including Buck, thought the giraffe was real. That makes it sound like I didn't. No, I did too. I didn't know. I was like, is that a CG giraffe or a real giraffe? I just kept asking my wife. I don't know. I had to look it up. Hence the show. And but I feel like, when they would, there's something about that scene where Kathleen catches up with, now at this point, Joel and Ellie and Henry and Sam, and and all hell breaks loose when a sea of fucking infected come out of the ground and create chaos. And we also see the little girl infected climbing through seats to get to Ellie. Nightmare fuel. But like, again, there was clearly, those were real actors and makeup. Some, the big bloater was CG, but it all seemed seamless.
It was a guy. They did CG over it, but yeah, there was a guy walking around at first. But the roaring and stuff was obviously.
But again, as far as, and this probably ties it back to the original discussion point of direction and cinematography, because we don't realize how much rehearsing goes on before they actually do these scenes, because there's a lot of moving pieces to make a scene like that come together and come to life.
Well, the clickers too in episode 2, they said that the people that played them were huge fans of the game, and so
they took their job so seriously.
They took their job so seriously, but they said it was really helpful because they had the movement down, because they had played the game and they knew how they moved around and stuff like that. So again, that shows you just how popular the game is.
And then that always conjures the clicker sound. That, that crackling.
There's a lady that made it. I saw a video and there was a lady, she did that. I think they were trying to figure out the sound and she did something like that. And they were like, wait, could you do that again? It was kind of one of those things where they're like, yeah, so creepy and stuff like that. But the sound and everything, that was great. But the sound design,
sound editing,
the editing. But there was one thing that really made me happy,
which was
Gustavo. Yeah.
So if you guys don't know, the musical score for both the game and now the TV show was performed by Gustavo. The last name we'll probably butcher, so we're just going to say Gustavo S.
Yes, that's good.
Because Gustavo is he plays classical guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And he plays a lot of stringed instruments like that. And he gave it this very unique stringed guitar sound, which highlights, since Joel is also kind of an amateur guitar player, and they even talk about that in the show, and it becomes a big thing in the second game where Ellie learns how to play the guitar. There's a bonding experience there. So a lot of the scoring, again, the glue of any video piece, film piece, TV piece, anything in this medium, that is really the secret weapon to a lot of these art forms and mediums is the music. And this is very unique because of Gustavo.
And it's so cool too, just like the dialogue where there were especially episode 8 and episode 9, where the dialogue was basically in the scenes were basically shot by shot remakes. It happened throughout the series, but 8 and 9 were almost just shot by shots from the game. But the music was the same as well. So especially in the very last scene of the whole series, it is the same music playing in the background of the game and the series. And that there's that build up where you hear the guitar kind of in the background. I think it's guitar, at least. I don't think it's banjo, but you hear it kind of building up to when she says, okay, at the end of it. And it was,
that's how the game ends. She just goes, okay.
But it was the same exact music. I was like, they're really doing this. It's the same music.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Don't fix it, man. And
yeah,
it was just, I was so happy that they brought him on and it was the same theme song, because, obviously they could have went with somebody else or changed that. But man, even that opening credits, that was another thing where I was hooked in. I was like, oh, thank God they're using the same music.
I got to ask you, Buck, did you I feel like we all collective as fans in the audience felt like there's no way they can wrap this up in one episode. I felt like there was so much story to still tell that I was like, there's no way they're going to finish the entire arc of the first game with this first season. I thought there would be like a cliffhanger, they changed something, and no, they somehow managed for in hindsight, I can see how they pulled it off. There was a lot of montage, when Joel is going through the facility to save Ellie, and
John Wick
fucking style, in the game you play all of that. You're just going through level after level after level and killing all these guys and killing the doctors and everything and saving Ellie.
The big boss in the game is like just hordes.
It's just the building. Yeah. And in the show, they use a very effective trope, which is the montage. There's just like a little montage of him going into like God mode, berserker doom mode of him just going through this.
I was hoping that they would build the only thing that's the only thing I didn't maybe like. I wanted them to build more tension with that, because in the game when you're playing it, obviously that's a big thing with this show is you can't show somebody stealthily sneaking around a building around infected for like half an hour and stuff like that. But in the game, that was also kind of like it built up a lot of tension because there were so many like people, so many armed men that built like making it to that operating room. It was a challenge, and so I thought like maybe if they could like like I was saying, like go John Wick, like kind of follow him a little bit closely and kind of building that tension where it's like, can he really make it? I don't mind the way they did it, but I would have liked to kind of have a bit more there. But going back to your point about could they fit all of it in, I got really nervous actually.
I was like, "There's no way,"
Because I
and then
felt
they did it.
yeah, and there's some things too. I think one of the biggest comments or feedback that I've heard is we didn't get enough of Joel and Ellie
Through the whole show or just that episode?
through the whole show. I think they could have either added a few more episodes or they could have.
Yeah, we felt the same way. We're like ending on 9 episodes. There must have been like a contractual obligation, or I could see since Pedro is becoming, the it boy in Hollywood right now, he probably had scheduling conflicts or something. So they're probably like, "Ooh, we only got him for this set amount of time. It's probably going to be 9 episodes instead of 10 or 11." But yeah, I think that's a fair. I think that's a fair criticism of like probably could have used a little more Joel and Ellie interplay dynamics and seeing some of their relationship be a little more fleshed out,
especially after the whole David thing.
Yeah, I felt like because they did a essentially like a flash forward. Because I did feel I will give you an olive branch and say I did kind of feel that way. I was like, man, that was quick. I was like they were still kind of fighting one episode ago. Like they kind of had that gruff, like, I don't know if I trust you yet, and then they're best friends suddenly. So there was a big jump in that relationship arc. But again, it is an adaptation. We can't have everything.
I know we're getting up to final thoughts here, but I did want to ask you this question.
No, I have a secret question for you that I didn't put in the outline too. So you can go first, and I'll go second.
Because I thought about this as well. Were there any scenes in the film that you thought were better in the game? And I mean more like the portrayal of Joel and Ellie. Do you think there were any scenes where Troy and Ashley did a better job than Pedro and Bella?
Yes and no. I feel like it's apples and oranges a little for me, because there's a lot of times that I felt, and this will probably give me a little bit of flack, but bring the Twitter heat, I don't care. Sometimes I felt like the show was better than the game. There was
really?
times where I felt, there was times where I was like, I this may be the medium for this story.
Yeah.
And then there was other times where I was like, yeah, but you don't get to be Joel. You don't get to be Ellie. You're just along for the ride. You're on the outside, not on the inside. And I think that's probably the difference for me, instead of just pure objective who played it better kind of a question, is what medium was better or worse. And I keep going back and forth in my head. It's still just apples and oranges. It's a different medium. It's a different way of storytelling. It'll never be the same. It'll be very similar. And this is, again, the best version of that. But I have a feeling then, since you're asking that question, you felt that way. Is that how you felt?
Certain scenes, yes. The scene that pops out to me the most is the bedroom scene when Joel is kind of, he's setting Ellie to go with Tommy down to Colorado. So he's kind of basically leaving her there and moving on. In the game, Ellie kind of runs away to another, like an abandoned house, and they kind of, but the dialogue is basically exactly
the same. Yeah, I remember.
I thought Ashley did a better job with the lines a little bit, because you can hear in her voice her actually starting to cry when she said, if you leave me alone, I'll just be more scared, kind of not having you there.
Yeah.
Bella did a great job in that, but I just thought, like, man, when Ashley says that, when you hear her voice kind of crack a little bit, you hear a little
It's a
bit more.
sock in the gut, pull at
Yeah.
the heartstrings a little more. Yeah.
However, I
However,
thought Bella did a better job with the whole interaction with David in the cell. Like when she screams, "I broke your," you can tell him, Ellie is the girl that broke your finger. And the game, it Ash was like just kind of yelling it out, like you could tell him, "I'm the one that broke your finger." And in the show, Bella like is screaming it out, which I was like, that's awesome.
yeah, and
It
this,
just kind of felt a
and
little bit more
David is
punchy.
like the evilest of evil. I mean, he's not only a cannibalistic cult leader, he's a diddler.
Oh
He's a
yeah,
child
yeah. He's a
molester.
child, yeah. And they fleshed that out. They kind of did, with some of the other scenes, they kind of flesh it out a little bit. But yeah, in the game though, man, you get creepy vibes from him from the beginning, and then I did like how they handled the whole thing where, everything happens for a reason, and he kind of explains that they've been kind of looking for those two.
I think that's a very thoughtful analysis of trying to analyze both sets of the game versus the show. My question for you has to have a little setup. So let's tell the good people, give them a little synopsis of the end of all of these story arcs, which is Joel and Ellie finally make it to the end of their journey, and they learn that the the scientists that want to do an operation on
Hmm.
Ellie to learn if the why she's immune, what they can learn about the cordyceps that's in her brain right now, if they can manipulate that into some sort of vaccine or cure. But to do that, they have to kill her.
Yeah.
Now, by now, Joel is a father figure. He
Hmm.
has taken on that role. Ellie has accepted the role of daughter to him as well. And so there's a new dynamic between them in terms of their bond and the love he has for her. And he decides to save her at the last minute so she doesn't die, and lie to her about what happened because she was under anesthesia and was completely out.
Yeah.
And so instead of allowing the scientists to kill her and study her brain for a possible cure that could save all of humanity, mind you, because his love for her was so great, he saves her at the last minute, and they live the rest of their lives together.
Hmm.
So my question for you, the $1 billion question that has plagued people since the dawn of this game, is: was he right or wrong, and what would you do, Buck?
Well, that's the beauty of this game, is it will
Yeah, there's
game
no
being
right
a
or wrong
TV show.
answer
There's no right or
before
wrong
before we go
answer,
into it.
and evil and good is a gray area throughout this whole thing, because
Because
you
Joel's an
love Joel.
anti-hero, but
Joel is an anti.
he's
He did
he's a
bad
killer.
things. Yeah,
Yeah.
and in the game, he's more portrayed as he's a lot more brutal in the game. That I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
they did a decent job in this, but in the game, wow, he does some things that you're like,
You
Jesus.
see little hints of it in the show when he's like torturing David's
Hmm.
men to learn where
Which was
Ellie even is. Yeah.
again a shot by shot remake of the game, down to the dialogue too.
Now don't avoid the question.
Yo, no, no,
Uh,
no, I'm going back to it. I just want to set it up is that, in my head, the first thing I think is it's a sacrifice that needs to be made, but I'm not a parent. And I think that's where the dilemma of this is. If you're a parent, your purpose on this life is you're going to protect your child. He is hit her father at that point,
right.
and he can't deal with losing another person, especially another daughter.
Right.
So it is a very selfish act, but at the same time, I don't know what I would do if I was in his position either.
Well, let me ask it this way first. Do you think Joel, as Joel, not you,
Yeah.
do you think he was justified in doing what he did? Because I'm going to say, as Joel, not as
As
me,
Joel,
I would say, yeah,
yeah, I would say so.
I say I could see why he did this. But as me, as
No,
Novo Day, I
yeah,
probably would want to have saved humanity. That's what I would
exactly.
have wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I'm the same way. And that's the debate of the game. And everybody has their own feeling on it. You're either on the side of he was wrong, or oh no, he did the right thing.
Well, my wife, TV Del Rio, I asked her to be on the show again. She declined again. No surprise. I asked her because she made a good
If I
point.
ask, will she join?
Oh, please. Yeah. Well, she did make a promise to us. We have to keep going. We have no plans on stopping. But we have to keep going until we do Dune Part 2, and she said she would do it.
Ooh,
So
okay.
we're gonna hold it to her. But before that, she's gonna be my ghostwriter now. So I'm just gonna speak on her behalf. She did make a good point because she works in some similar fields, and she says it doesn't. I think Joel did the right thing because there's no guarantee that what they
That it
learned
would have
from,
worked.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's no guarantee that what they learned from Ellie is going to work or turn into a cure or something like that. And then you're just left with nothing, another dead body on the operation table for nothing. But what's
Wow.
really more
Yeah.
important? The love of your life or the chance. So in the game, it kind of, I think this is what we have to set up to, because in the game it kind of sets it up like it's almost like a guarantee. That's the dilemma. It's
Yeah,
like
in the
if we
game it
kill,
is. Yeah.
if we kill this poor girl to operate on her mind and learn the secrets of the cordyceps and try to create a cure, a vaccine, or whatever, we're going to save humanity. That's how they kind of premise it in the game.
Yeah.
Where in reality, these kind of things, not to this severity, but there are times when they have to make really hard choices to study things in the real world. Usually they don't kill people, but if someone's going to die of natural causes, or if they sign up to donate their organs or donate themselves to science, this stuff actually does happen to an extent in the real world.
Yeah. It's usually just not humans they test it on. It's like
Right. But
mice,
her point
rats.
is like, this happens all the time and it's never a guarantee.
Yeah.
The only guarantee that they have is that they love each other and they could create a new family together. And what is really life all about than the simple things and that love, family, and just living.
Well, that's
So
the theme of the show. It's
yeah,
love.
so I feel like she makes a really good, compelling point
Yeah. No,
that I never thought of.
I didn't even think about it. She is really a good person to ask on that because she is associated with that field. So yeah, yeah, I didn't think of it that way. That's a good perspective on things.
Yeah. But regardless, let's start to tie a bow on this piece. So guys, what do you think? Anybody listening, tweet at us, email us, do all the things, chat with us. I want to hear if you think, how do you feel about the $1 billion question?
When you get down to the nitty gritty, it is just a beautiful story overall. Like we said, the theme is love. The next game, the theme is hate. Just overall for
season 2, they've already been renewed, so
yeah,
you'll get to see it. All you moms and dads out there that'll never play the games.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting how they handle season 2. It's a little bit more complex.
I feel like they have to separate that in maybe a season 2 and 3 arc.
It sounds like they're going to, because I don't know how you're going to do
it. Yeah, there'd be so many flashbacks. It'd be hard to keep up in this medium. Like it works in the game, but I'm not sure if it would work in this particular medium.
Well, without getting in spoilers, you're going to be towing a fine line with the fan base on this one.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
we don't have to go there. We just have to talk about why it is important to the art.
But why it is important is from the video game standpoint. I think now this is going to be really important because they're going to definitely want to make more adaptations of games now, I think. But I think there's going to be
now they have the blueprint.
They have the blueprint, and so they're going to be. I think they're going to follow the story a lot closer in these games. Exactly. You're not going to get the deviation. You're not going to get the hubris of some writer coming in saying, "Oh, I want to write my own story. I have this idea." Stick to the material. It works. It definitely will create an audience, even outside of the video game fans. It will create a large fan base. You got to trust the source material. And I think that's what's important in this, is that we finally got something that just knocked it out of the park. Like you said, there's a blueprint, follow it. And I think we're going to see some really awesome adaptations of games that we've always like kind of dreamt about. So I think that's what's important. The one thing I do ask Hollywood, though, if you do a Metal Gear adaptation, try to make some sense out of it. Like, my God, I'm even still confused about it. I love those games, but man.
And I think the most important part too is that these are still inherently artistic.
They are.
Artistic integrity is still there.
It is an art form. It is
an
not.
art form, and it keeps being reinforced by being put into these
Yes,
other art forms too.
exactly. Make a good Final Fantasy based off of
Ooh,
one,
ooh.
like a Final Fantasy 9. That story
Now,
still gets me.
now we're just making demands. Come on,
No,
Hollywood.
seriously, there's a lot of good material out there, and there was no
I
voice
could
acting.
see it
It was
in
all
long
text.
form mini seasons kind of arcs, because
Yeah.
Final Fantasy wouldn't work in a 2 or 3 hour film,
No, it needs to
because
be
they
an
tried that.
anthology.
It
Yeah.
was called The Spirits Within. They tried that, it didn't work out. And yeah, we need to do anthology style, long form, bring the art to the other mediums and make the good people happy. So there you have it, guys. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank Buck for being my guest today. The Last of Us from top to bottom. Now, before we go, of course, we have a little extra for you, a little icing on the cake, a little cherry on top with what we call the Gem of the Week. If you're new to the show and don't know what the Gem of the Week is, it's essentially something we like to talk about here at the end of our shows, but doesn't always fit into the scheme of the main topic and episode, because it may just be on our radar in the last day, maybe last week, maybe last month, but we want to give it to you guys so you guys can dig deeper. Before we talk about it, of course, we need to talk about their sponsor. Today's gems are brought to you by Zencaster. Zencaster is our go-to tool for remote podcast recording. So what's great is that you can record separate audio and video tracks, and it's all backed up on a secured cloud, so you never lose your hard work. Even better, it's easy to use, and there's nothing to download. So go to zen.ai, that's zen.ai/art of the beholder, or just use promo code art of the beholder. Get 30% off your first 3 months with the pro account. Now back to the gems. Mine is short and sweet because I want to give it back to my guest. It is the movie Triangle of Sadness. Another masterclass in art house filmmaking. Buck, what do you got for us?
Well, as you know, my life has been hectic lately. So, but besides The Last of Us, I've been trying to catch up on all the Oscar
Oh,
nominated
yeah.
films.
Hence the
Really
Triangle
behind
of Sadness. Yeah.
the Triangle Sadness, but the one that and I know it's like a very popular one, but I did get to watch The Fabelmans. I've been meaning to watch that for a long time, and I think
What'd you think?
I did not like the beginning of it, but I kind of get like why he filmed it that way. But the real thing that made me laugh out loud that I loved was the cameo at the end of the movie.
Oh yeah, Lynch.
Yeah, that's John Ford. Yeah, and I love that ending shot where they move the camera
They
up.
moved the camera because of the horizon.
The
Yeah.
horizon.
If you like that, maybe you can check out some of our stuff at novodayproductions.com. You can always follow us at _Nova_day and at Nova Day Media. Of course, you can like, subscribe, do all the things. And if you'd like to sponsor our little love child, you can reach out to us at novadaymedia@gmail.com. And again, until next time, be good to each other. And as always, good luck and Godspeed. We love you. See you in the next one, guys.
Art of the Beholder is brought to you by Novo Day Productions. Created and hosted by Novo Day and the Novo Day Collective. Facebook.com/Novo Day Media, at Novo Day Media on Twitter and Instagram. Music by A Company. Facebook.com/ACOMusic123. ACO on Spotify. Logo design by Tom Justice, JESTUS, of thejusticecompany.com. And executively produced by Clayton Anderson. All rights reserved.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.